I never thought silence could sound so loud. Standing before the mirror in my bridal suite, I could hear every small thing: the faint hum of the air conditioner, the soft clink of a champagne flute, my own heartbeat pacing beneath the layers of satin and lace. My wedding gown shimmered under the golden light, every bead catching the glow like a quiet promise. Today was supposed to be perfect, a celebration of love, of survival, of finally being seen. But perfection has a funny way of cracking. The knock on the door was gentle, polite. My mother's voice floated in. "Sweetheart, your sister's here. She wanted to surprise you." A chill crawled down my back before I even turned. I didn't know what kind of surprise she had planned, but history had taught me to expect the unexpected from Emily. When I turned around and saw her, my breath caught. She was standing there, smiling, radiant in a white gown. Not ivory, not beige. White. For a moment, my reflection blurred behind her, like I had become the shadow at my own wedding. I heard my mother gasp softly, but not in disapproval. More like admiration. "Doesn't she look beautiful?" Beautiful. That word again, the one they'd always saved for her. I smiled anyway because that's what I do best. "Lovely," I whispered. "Absolutely lovely." But inside, something shifted. I wasn't the same girl they used to silence. Not anymore. And if my sister thought this was her moment, well, she didn't see this coming. Growing up, the world seemed to orbit around my sister, Emily. She was the golden child. Blue eyes that sparkled like daylight, hair that caught every ray of sun, laughter that filled every room. People adored her, and my parents treated her as if the universe had written her name in gold. And me? I was the afterthought, quieter, plainer, the one who stayed in the corners holding the camera instead of posing for it. I learned early that invisibility was safer than comparison. When we were little, I didn't mind it much. But as we got older, it became unbearable. I still remember the night before her senior prom. I walked into her room, wearing a dress Mom had helped me alter for my own school dance. She looked up from her mirror, wrinkled her nose, and said, "Oh, honey, that's cute." Kind of simple, though. Mom had laughed softly, as if Emily's cruelty was charming. That was the pattern. Emily shined and I swallowed. Every single time. The final straw came 3 years ago, the night my engagement fell apart. I'd brought my fiancé, Nathan, to meet my family. Emily had just gotten back from California, wearing confidence like perfume. Nathan liked her immediately, too much. I saw it in the way he listened to her, how his smile lingered too long. When I confronted him weeks later, he didn't deny it. "She's just different," he'd said. Different. That word gutted me. The night I broke things off, I packed a small suitcase and left home. My mother's voice followed me down the hall, trembling but not stopping me. My father didn't even come out of his office. Emily stood at the top of the stairs, pretending to cry, crocodile tears that glimmered under the chandelier. Outside, it was raining. I sat in my car, shaking, staring at the house that never really felt like mine. That's when I noticed the small velvet pouch my grandmother had left me in her will. Inside was a simple silver locket and a note in her familiar, looping handwriting. "Grace doesn't mean silence, my darling. It means rising without noise." Those words settled deep inside me, soft and strong at the same time. I didn't know how yet, but I promised myself, one day, I'd rise. And when I did, they would see me. The first year away from home was brutal. I rented a one-bedroom apartment above a laundromat in Portland, the kind of place where the pipes rattled at night and the walls smelled faintly of detergent. I worked 2 jobs, receptionist by day, waitress by night. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. Every paycheck felt like a breath of freedom. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, wondering if I'd made a mistake. My phone would light up sometimes with texts from Mom, mostly short, polite questions. "You okay? Need anything?" But they were never followed by calls. Emily, of course, had her own life to flaunt, posting from rooftop bars and beach houses, her followers commenting goals under every photo. I never commented. I just scrolled past, pretending I didn't care. Then, one morning, everything changed. At the cafe where I worked, an older woman named Marian used to come in every Thursday. She always ordered the same thing: black coffee, 2 sugars, and tipped generously. One day, she lingered a bit longer than usual, watching me sketch logo ideas on the back of a receipt. "You have an eye for balance," she'd said, her voice warm but firm. I blushed. "It's just something I do to stay awake during shifts." She smiled. "No, it's something you do, because you can't help it. Talent doesn't hide forever." Turns out, Marianne owned a small but respected design firm. Within a month, she offered me an internship. It was unpaid at first, but I didn't care. For the first time, I felt like I was stepping towards something that fit. I worked harder than I'd ever worked in my life. Days blurred into nights, and weekends became opportunities to learn. I studied color theory, branding psychology, storytelling through visuals. I listened. I absorbed. And slowly, painfully, beautifully, I began to grow. A year later, I landed my first freelance client, a local boutique that wanted to rebrand. When the campaign launched, it went viral in the Pacific Northwest. My designs were fresh, emotional, feminine, unapologetically me. From there, doors started opening. More clients, bigger projects, even a few speaking opportunities. Marianne became my mentor, part coach, part mother figure. She never raised her voice, but her belief in me was louder than any praise I'd ever received at home. Eventually, I founded my own design studio, Silver Grace Creative. The name was a tribute to my grandmother's locket, the one I wore every day. Within 2 years, I had a small team, high-profile clients, and a corner office overlooking the city skyline. But I didn't tell my family. Not yet. When Mom asked what I'd been up to, I'd say, just keeping busy. When Emily bragged about her influencer gigs and brand trips, I'd smile and say, that's great, Em. Let them think I was still the quiet one, the one who never competed, never stood out. Because some things are best revealed when the timing is perfect. And my moment was coming. The day of the wedding dawned with an air of perfection, crisp sunlight, gentle breeze, every petal and ribbon in place. The ceremony was set in the gardens of a restored colonial estate just outside Seattle. White chairs glimmered under the morning light, soft piano music floated across the lawns, and the scent of peonies filled the air. Guests moved about with champagne glasses and laughter, unaware that beneath my calm smile, my heart was a slow, deliberate drumbeat. My parents arrived early, full of rehearsed pride. Mom fussed over centerpieces and told anyone who would listen that her daughters were so close. Dad barely looked at me, maybe out of habit. I'd stopped trying to decode his silence years ago. Then Emily arrived. When I saw her stepping out of the car, my breath caught. Her gown was stunning, white silk with a train long enough to brush the grass. She looked like she was walking into her own wedding. Gasps spread across the guests like ripples on water. Someone whispered, "Wait, isn't that her sister?" Mom rushed to her side, touching the fabric of Emily's dress with admiration instead of outrage. "It's just Emily being Emily," she laughed, brushing off the tension as if it were pollen in the air. I watched from across the garden, my hands tightening around my bouquet. My maid of honor, Ava, leaned close. "You okay?" I smiled. Perfect. Inside, I was steel. When the ceremony began, the string quartet started playing softly. I walked down the aisle to the man who'd waited patiently, lovingly, for me to heal. Daniel. His eyes met mine, full of calm certainty. He didn't need to know the full history to understand the weight of this moment. The vows went beautifully. The sun seemed to approve. But as soon as the officiant pronounced us married, I felt it, the shift. The air changed. Cameras turned, whispers rose. Emily had stood, pretending to wipe tears, and her white gown glittered beside my own. That's when I did what I'd been planning for weeks. I turned to the guests and took the microphone. Before we begin the reception, I said, my voice steady, I have a few words to share. A hush fell. My parents exchanged puzzled looks. When I left home a few years ago, I continued. I didn't leave because I wanted distance. I left because I needed peace. Because sometimes love, even family love, can suffocate you if it's too busy shining on someone else. Emily's smile faltered. Mom shifted uncomfortably. I've been building something in that silence, I said. Something I'm proud of. I turned to Daniel, who gave a small nod. And today, I'm not just celebrating my marriage. I'm celebrating what that silence became. Behind me, the projector screen lit up, the one we'd used for the slideshow. But instead of photos, it displayed the logo of Silver Grace Creative. The crowd murmured. Then came images of my design work, campaigns, awards, magazine features, all with my name on them. I own this company, I said softly. Every design you've seen around the venue today, the invitations, the floral branding, even the logo on the gift boxes, all mine. This wedding was designed, built, and paid for by me. Gasps rippled through the garden. My father blinked, stunned. My mother's mouth parted, her lipstick trembling. Emily looked pale, frozen in her white gown that suddenly seemed gaudy and out of place. I let the silence settle. Then, with a smile, I added, "So yes, Emily looks beautiful today. But I think it's finally time everyone saw that beauty runs in this family, in more than one way." There was laughter, applause, a few tears. But in that moment, I didn't need their approval. I already had mine. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel small standing next to my sister. I felt seen. The applause faded, replaced by a charged kind of silence. You could almost feel the air rearrange itself, like the universe had just shifted a few inches in my favor. My mother was the first to move. She stood, her pearls catching the sunlight, and said softly, "You never told us any of this." I smiled, steady. "You never asked." It wasn't bitterness, just truth. We moved toward the reception tent. Music began playing again, something upbeat but light, an attempt to smooth the edges of what had just happened. I could feel people's eyes following me, admiration mixed with curiosity. Emily walked a few paces behind, her white train dragging slightly, a little clumsy now under all that attention. During dinner, I finally approached my parents' table. Daniel squeezed my hand before I went, his look saying, "You've got this." Mom tried to speak first. "Sweetheart, we're so proud of you, we just..." I held up a hand gently. "It's okay, Mom. I didn't say all that to embarrass anyone. I just needed you to see me." My father cleared his throat. "You could have told us you were doing well. We thought." "I know what you thought," I said softly. "You thought I was struggling. And maybe you liked that story because it made sense to you. Emily the success, me the survivor. But that's not my story anymore." Emily looked up, her face pale. "I didn't mean to." I cut her off, calm but firm. "You didn't mean to wear a wedding dress to your sister's wedding? Come on, Em. You've always known exactly what you were doing. You just never thought anyone would call you out on it." She blinked, tears threatening. For the first time, she looked small. I sighed, taking a seat beside her. "Emily, I don't hate you. I just need space from the version of you that competes with everyone who loves you." Her lip trembled. "What do you want me to do?" I looked at her, really looked at her. Beneath the makeup and the polished smiles, she looked tired. Maybe she'd been carrying the pressure to stay perfect for so long she didn't even realize it was crushing her. "Start living for yourself," I said. "Stop performing for people who'll never be satisfied. Take a class. Travel. Do something that has nothing to do with approval." Then I turned to my parents. "And you, if you want to be part of my life, you need to stop pretending love is a competition. Stop playing favorites. I won't stand for it anymore. No shouting. No anger. Just clarity and peace." My mother's eyes filled with tears. My father nodded slowly, his jaw tightening with something that looked a lot like guilt. Emily reached for my hand. "I don't know if I can change overnight." "You don't have to," I said. "You just have to start." For the first time in years, it felt like we were all sitting at the same table, not as the perfect family pretending for the world, but as flawed people trying to find each other again. As I stood to leave, the band began playing our first dance song. I turned back once and said softly, You all wanted control over my story. But I'm the one writing it now. And when I walked back to Daniel, the look on his face told me he'd never been prouder. The reception mellowed as twilight folded over the garden, the sky deepening into shades of rose and amber. Fairy lights blinked to life above us, and laughter returned. Softer this time, more genuine. I stood with Daniel beneath the canopy of string lights, my hand resting against his chest as we swayed to a slow song. For the first time that day, my body finally exhaled. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my parents talking quietly at their table. Mom's head rested on Dad's shoulder, a sight I hadn't seen in years. Emily sat beside them, her white gown now draped awkwardly with a borrowed shawl, as if even she realized how out of place it was. But her eyes found mine across the dance floor, and she gave me a small, hesitant smile. I smiled back. Not in triumph, in peace. Later, as the night thinned and guests began to leave, Emily approached me. The music had softened to a slow instrumental, and her voice trembled when she spoke. "You looked beautiful today," she whispered. "Thank you," I said gently. She hesitated before adding, "I'm sorry. For everything. I thought being admired meant being loved." I reached for her hand, the same hand that had once held mine on childhood walks to school. "You don't have to earn love, Em. You just have to be honest." Her eyes glistened. She nodded, and for a moment I saw not my rival, but my sister. When she walked away, I stepped out into the garden alone. The night air was cool, fragrant with lilacs and rain. I reached up, touching the silver locket around my neck, my grandmother's gift. I opened it, tracing the tiny engraved words with my thumb. Grace doesn't mean silence. It means rising without noise. I finally understood. Grace isn't about enduring quietly or forgiving endlessly. It's about knowing your worth so deeply that no one else gets to define it. Behind me, Daniel's footsteps crunched lightly over the grass. He slipped his arm around my waist. "Everything okay?" I smiled, leaning into him. "Perfect. Just full circle." He looked out over the glowing garden. "You handled that better than most people would have." I laughed softly. "Let's just say, I've had practice." As we stood there, the moon climbed higher, silvering the world around us. The music faded, the voices dimmed, and all I could hear was the rhythm of my own heartbeat, steady, strong, free. I closed my eyes, whispering to myself one final truth, the one I'd earned every right to say. They wanted her to wear white, but I was the only one who walked out pure. Bottom of form.